Tonight, Dale Spencer Weeks is a psychic numerologist. He understands that number vibrations, which is that's the objective word, are eternal and spiritual nature, and they allow him to see with clarity the total. Stephen, this is your word, totality. I think I've heard you say that word, of one's life. Yes, you have. This includes the past, present, and future issues involving health and career, guides, and much more. We're going to have a lot of great chat tonight about an interview about that. Hi, Dale. Are you there? Hello.
Hello, Maureen, and everyone else there. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, Dale, it's been almost exactly 2 years since.
I think so.
And I'm so happy to hear your voice. I knew it. I wasn't joking. I was real excited. I love your energy, and I think your work is fantastic. There are a lot of people, we all do our things, but you're a fantastic numerologist and even beyond that. But in fact, why don't we get started why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you come to be?
I actually, since we last spoke, actually, can I say hello to everyone else there?
Absolutely. Yes.
Is there Steve?
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening. Welcome back, Dale.
Good to hear from you. Great. Well, I've like all of us, since we last spoke, I've grown tremendously, and I sort of now don't so much use the word psychic. It's more intuitive, spiritual numerologist. But I, when I was 16 years old, I walked into the house, and my mother was sitting at a table, and I went by her and noticed she had this red book on the table, and I asked her what it was, and she said that my brother had given it to her, and it was a book on numerology. And I went into the kitchen. I remember I got a cup of milk and some cookies, and on my way back out, I grabbed the book, went upstairs into my bedroom, and have been in there ever since, so to speak. The numerology just took a hold of me, but I sort of have always been in touch or able to express myself spiritually. I actually, not many people know, but I was brought up in the church, and I actually went to school to be a minister, and came back sort of full circle, but I've always sort of been enamored and attracted to astrology and just other things. Naturally, I would do things in my home. So as a kid, lighting candles, burning incense, creating peace around me. There was a period when I was a child where I was wearing all types of Egyptian jewelry, and it just grew. And at this point now, I own my own business for 10 years, and I closed that business in 2010. And I'm a big believer in asking and you receive. I asked the universe. I sat on the edge of my bed. I use the term universe or God, or I like to say absolute spirit, actually. But I asked the absolute spirit, I said, I need to know what to do now. Yes to finding my path. I had slept for 4 months after owning a business for 10 years and 35 employees, and then realized I was going through my funds and I needed to do something. And lo and behold, that was on a Sunday. I asked God, I said, I need to know. And on Thursday, I got my answer. I bumped into someone who I actually I didn't even recognize her, actually. I actually dabbled in numerology readings for friends, and I used to place it on a cassette tape. And she remembered me, and she said, am I still doing it? And I said, actually, I'm not, just for myself. And will you please do a reading for me? And called a buddy of mine, a tech guy, and said, well, how would I do it today? No one's using cassette tapes. He said, why don't you place it on CD? And one thing led to the other. I gave it to her. She loved it. I gave it to her for free, just out of the heart. And then she turned another friend on. And then 2 weeks into that, she had some friends coming in from Florida. Very spiritual people. They were in a convention, 6 of them, and she said, can you do 6 readings in 2 days? And I did it, and the rest is history. And since then, since we last spoke, I have, and I always say, like all of us, I've grown spiritually. Numerology has taken me into so many other avenues, into clairvoyancy. I actually help people with dealing with entities around them. I'm able to see and hear spiritually. It's more like a guide. I'm able to see past lives, which again, there's some wonderful people out there that are past life practitioners or are professional in that respect. I just have ability to see by literally what I call the vibration, which is segue into numerology, jumping into the soul's vibration. It's almost like jumping into a stream. I could jump in and I sort of am able to see past lives, things that are going to occur now and in the future or may occur. And from my perspective and what I do, the most important thing about seeing a past life is not so much the life itself, which can be very interesting. You know, I could tell you that you were the Queen of England. And you could say, okay, Dale, that sounds kind of nice. Okay, I was the Queen of England, but what does that mean? And for me, what I find important and what has developed is what's important about that past life is what does it mean to you now in this incarnation? How does it speak in terms of idiosyncrasies, talents, gifts, health issues that may occur or keep occurring, deja vu feelings, blessings? Usually, I shouldn't say usually, all the time, when I see a past life, there is always a direct correlation to who the person is now. But that's just a small segment, because when you jump into what I call the vibes, which is numerology, and as everything else, numerology walks hand in hand with astrology and runes and anything else, because we are here. And there are many ways to get to New York City, and there are many ways to get in touch with oneself or to understand the universe. So I sort of have spread myself in that way, and my wings have sort of opened up, and a lot of name changes and modifications I've been going through, and a lot of the spirituality of numbers is something I'm just started to write, Maureen, a book, an audio. I do everything,
great.
A lot of things audio.
Yes.
There is actually spirituality in numbers, and I try to remind people numbers are just, from my point of view, they just represent vibrations. They just represent feelings. It's not the number itself. It's just like our name. My name is Dale. Your name is Maureen. That name, Maureen, represents you here on this plane, on this planet. But you are not Maureen, yet your soul expresses yourself through the name, the vibration of Maureen, like the sun in the sky. It's an entity. It's here. But so I use numbers, or I try to explain number vibrations in the sense that they just represent feelings. And I use the term feelings because most of us use numerology each and every day, and we don't necessarily realize it.
We don't even pay attention to it, or we're not self-aware. In fact, I feel I'm sorry, go on.
No, you go. I'm sorry.
No, I feel that, I want you to remember what you're going to say, because I feel it's really important that we don't pay attention, and we need to be more mindful and self-aware of what numbers, listening to your story reminds me, and I'm sure that my other co-hosts would agree, it's like our journey that we take, and like the synchronicity of this woman and connection, and the other people coming to look at, you're doing the work you must do. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
You didn't know, but it is what it is. And so it's not just about the numerology, it's that you connected with that science, and that's like with me it was tarot, but it goes beyond the tarot. It's like how you were saying it's now gone beyond the but the numerology part, even in tarot, the number in tarot, I get a vibration from that just by that number. Maybe I feel it, or because I'm an
expert. I'm an expert, Maureen, and you're an expert, and Steve is an expert. And what are we experts at? Believe it or not, living. We are here. I love to say, I have the freevibeoftheday.com, which is the daily 5-minute message. At least 4 or 5 days out of the week, I say, hello, welcome to freevibeoftheday.com. Another day upon the planet. We are here on the planet. And from my perspective, we are spiritual beings housed in this flesh. So our soul, we express our soul through our name on this planet, on this particular plane. And so because we are here, and I love to say here because we are here, we are experts in life, even though we make mistakes. But I always tell people I know a lot. And what I do know is that I breathe. And I do know that I love. And I do know that I am here, and it's not a dream. And that there are laws to the universe that I'm not an expert in what all the laws are, but as a human being, I am an expert in what I feel. And so many of us, what we call intuition, it's vibrations, but, we do know a lot of things. People like women, people who name their babies. I use the term, I use numerology. I express that you're actually using numerology, you don't know it. I want to name my child Mary, and maybe you're with your husband or your wife, and no, I don't like that name. That doesn't feel right. Well, how about Julie? No, that doesn't feel right. How about Mary Ann? That doesn't feel right. And then when you get a name that feels right, that's your spirit. That's the vibration.
Intuitive. You're right. The intuitiveness of it all.
That's human. That's what I mean by being an expert or using or bracing. Our lives are not numerology. Our lives are not, from my perspective, astrology. They're not that, but we express, and everything vibrates. And I love to say that in a way, whether it's an animate or inanimate object, alive or dead, which I think is basically the same thing, subconsciously and consciously, we hear things. Man, collectively, we call a rock. Why? Because it vibrates to that name. It just vibrates to that name. Maybe in a different language, it might be different, a different culture, and then many cultures, the names are very similar, but we call a tree. We call a car. Now, it's kind of basic, but when you really think about it, we don't call a car a tree. We don't call a rock a pencil, because in a way, these things are not alive. Right. But because they're here, there is some kind of frequency about it because it's here in this plane. That's vibrations.
That's very interesting, because it's almost like a pebble. It's not a rock, but a pebble has a different vibration.
It does have a different vibration because it's different.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you about the names real quick, because you said something about, when you're having a kid, and I remember when I had my first one, she was like 6 months long, but whatever. It was Madeline Rose. Everybody thought it was a joke, but so Mariah is the only daughter I have. She came later, and she's the only one, of course. But I named her Mariah M-E-R. I was very particular about I named her after Mariah Carey. M-E-R. It just really felt right, and no one else, because of Myrrh, and I don't know why. But I know why. I don't believe in anything. All I know is what I know. I just knew that was the right way for it. And so it was something like that when you're talking about. Is that what you're talking about? Like in
that's the vibration. I believe a lot. I know. I'm going to the audacity to say I know, but I know most of the time. Maybe not all the time, because rules are what are rules. But I know for the most part that the soul chooses its name. The soul chooses name because of its presence. So when the baby's in the womb, sometimes even before the baby is the womb, before the baby's actually in the mother's womb, the spirit of the soul will fly or hover around people until it's ready to come in. But in most cases, but I can't say all, most cases, the soul knows its name, and it will, just by its presence, you can feel it. And a lot of times people, obviously people change their names. That's we might get into that a little bit. But even there are mistakes made at times. Names very interesting. Oprah Winfrey, wonderful example. She was actually born Orpah Winfrey. They misspelled her name, but the vibration of her soul is not an Orpah, it's an Oprah.
Wow.
And many times that I have so many people that I've met who say, well, when I was born, my name was spelled this way, and they made a mistake here and there. That's the vibration of the soul in many cases, not all the time, but the soul expressing itself, saying, hey, this is who I am, and we feel it and we hear it, and you can you can go into a room and feel positive energy or negative energy. That's vibration. So when it gets intimate with a mother and a child, and it's nothing closer than a mother and a child, maybe a father and a child, but a mother and a child, mothers, when they love their children, even before they're born, that's a God connection. And so, now sometimes they might force a name on a soul also. That's possible. But I believe that a lot of the time, more than not, the soul chooses itself, and the soul is where I always go first when I do quote unquote what I call readings, or when I sit with people and they want to know about things, or they want to see what I know, and if it fits. It's always the soul usually that I go to first, because that's the real person, and that's usually in terms of numerology the inner self, or it's called the inner urge, or I just say it's the person without the body. It's who they are.
I want to ask you, Dale, because you go by Dale Spencer Weeks. Is there a reason why have you always gone by that, or did you decide to do that for a particular reason?
I have a wonderful mother. who's 89 years old, and she still drives in Florida, and she
Oh,
still
that's
walks
lovely.
as fast. It's lovely. And I had a conversation with her last week, the very first time ever. I couldn't believe. She said that she had a habit of naming town for naming a lot of my cousins and such, but she said that my relatives wanted to name me something else, and she said it didn't feel right. And I was just listening. She said, and when I first came up with Dale Weeks, and I said, that's not enough. Has to be something. I'm listening in fascination because she's actually speaking as a numerologist. She said, and I really felt Dale Spencer Weeks was you. That's who you were. It was strong. Dale Weeks was too weak. But Dale Spencer Weeks seemed strong, and that's what I wanted. She mentioned that from my sisters and so forth. There was a period in my life when I was a kid where I went by Dale Weeks. And then when I came to New York City and I got involved in theater and television and film, I went by Dale Spencer. And as I've grown older, I just realized Dale Spencer Weeks is how I want to express myself. But, it's interesting because with names and name modifications, oh, my God. So I would say, now this is purely something I make up, but I would say at least 60, 70% of your Hollywood stars and musicians have changed their name, and it's probably higher. They've changed their names because the name that they were given may not express who they are now or want to portray to the world. As a matter of fact, I was just looking. I said, "Well, I'm going to speak with Maureen today. So I should pick somebody who's been in the news for the last. I wonder if someone that's been in the news a lot has changed their names." And lo and behold, Miley Cyrus. She was born Destiny Cyrus.
Really?
But when she changed her name to Miley Cyrus, the full vibration of it vibrates to a 6 energy, which real basic. I mean, this is but 6 is the vibration of love, and out of love we sing, we dance, we heal, we help, we're psychiatry and so many other things, artistic. But that 6 energy suddenly, from what she was originally as her soul, as she came in, suddenly helped her to be that singer. And then I mentioned Dionne Warwick, which was so interesting because her first album, they misspelled her name, and it was actually
Dionne Warwick is we're talking about?
Yeah, her first album, she was born Dionne Warwick. Oh. And her very, very first album, what was it? I actually wrote that down, and I can't see it, but her very first album, they made a mistake, the spelling, and they wrote Warwick, and that song became a #1 hit, and she went with Warwick because it vibrates to a 6 energy and other things that put her in the limelight, the name itself. And, and it is the name, and particularly in entertainment, but, we express ourselves through our name, even religiously, wherever your beliefs lie. But, I was brought up in the church, so I can speak somewhat of the Bible.
Catholic. You were in the Catholic church, like I was.
No, right? I was actually what we call Pentecostal, where they speak in tongues, and there's a lot of clapping, and, that kind of thing. And but even in the Bible, for those who are either Catholic or religious, Abram became Abraham. God changed the name of Abram, and Abram means, if I'm not mistaken, it was the father of. It means exalted father, but Abraham means father of many. His soul needed to express more. Jacob became Israel. Saul became Paul. Simon became Peter. There are reasons, not just because names mean something different, but even within the meaning of that name, it does mean something. The soul needs to express itself more. And I can go down to, oh my God, Bruce Willis changed his name. He was Walter Willis. Vin Diesel changed his name. He was Mark Vincent. Marilyn Monroe, that's a famous one. Norma Jean.
Yeah.
And here's the last I'll mention, Karen Johnson. Do we know who Karen Johnson is? You should know.
I do.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg, that's right.
Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah. Now, again, the reason I mention this, the name change, again, it really gets to the core, vibrations, feeling. Whoopi Goldberg just sounds different, sounds fun. Karen Johnson is good. It's great. But Whoopi Goldberg, she's a Whoopi Goldberg. So in numerology, in terms of vibrations, it can make a difference. Now, you could have a horrible name and still be wonderful in what you do and famous or not famous, whatever, because the soul still transcends anything, from my perspective. Right. Anything, but...
Well, speaking of Marilyn Monroe, I'll tell you something. Perhaps maybe she would have kept it Norma Jean. She was such... a lovely soul, and so much. We all know the story about. I mean, where I'm standing, I feel it breaks my heart about her,
Yeah,
and
and a name doesn't necessarily, in most cases, it doesn't change who you are. You are who you
doesn't
are. But it
right.
can help sometimes if you choose a name that you can aspire to. But, again,
People
this is
change
just
it for you,
basic
though.
thinking. You could
If
choose a
people
name that could not be good for you because you can't be that person.
right.
I always love using that example of being a casting director and you only have 1 hour left and two people call you in as a director, say, listen, you got to see my person. You got to see my person. And you haven't found who you need. It's a big multi-million-dollar film, blah, blah, blah. And the key here is that you need somebody sexy and erotic and just out there. And you have all these people calling you and two people call and one person says, you have to see my person. And her name is Jaja Flamand. And the other person is Mildred, I don't know, Bartholomew. Matter of fact, let's reduce it. You only could choose one. Now, your character for the film is flamboyant, out there, gregarious, extroverted, and sexy, and all that. Generally,
Yeah.
most people would choose Jaja Flamand. Generally.
Yeah.
Because that's a name that,
Yeah. Of course.
and that's vibration.
Well, yeah, Jaja and Mildred.
Jaja, Jaja. That reminds
Jaja.
me, I was in the airport. The funniest thing, it's literally one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Literally. And I've been on the planet a few years. I was in the airport last year. Make a long story short, I just went through security. And there's this little girl, and this is name change. Little girl, she was 6 years old. Actually, how do I know she was six? She looked like she was six. She had a beautiful white dress. And it came out like a honeycomb. She had this incredible red hair. And she was with her mother. And I mean red. I've never seen such redness in it. And a little girl, and she was beautiful. And suddenly she bolted away from her mother, and she was running away from her mother. She was running down the aisle, down the hallway, and she kept looking back, smiling with this laugh. And the mother was calling out her name to stop. And whenever she called the name, people stopped. And the name was Jezebel. And she said, Jezebel, stop. Where are you going? Jezebel. And you could look, and people in the hallway knew that this girl was Jezebel. She was a Jezebel. She had the energy of a little Jezebel and the smile on her face. And she was just having so much fun that she was running away from her mother, and her mother had to chase her, and she had this laugh. And I just looked at that and said, now that's vibration. I said, I don't know where she's going to be 20 years from now, but even people looked and they saw the Jezebel and looked at the girl, and people started laughing, but I knew what they were laughing at, the vibration of it.
Yeah, and the mother probably was having a great time just saying the name Jezebel too.
Oh, I swear it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. It should have been, if you would have seen the look on her face, she was just in heaven running away with a smile and this little laugh. And she looked like a little Jezebel, whatever that means to us.
I get what you're saying, but also for the mother, that would be a win-win because she probably enjoyed saying, now Jezebel, that kind of, that energy, that's vibration, the vibration.
Energy. Now, of course, doesn't mean that everybody lives up to that name. Her soul could be very different, but I usually we, the movie Star Wars, The Force. You can do what you will with the energy. I believe that there's one energy, one source, which is I'll call the God energy. I don't even believe in evil in the sense that a devil or and this is still vibration. I'm not saying there isn't a concept of evil, but if one believes in as God being omnipotent. And that means all-powerful. And all-powerful, actually, which is the one energy, the number one vibration, which maybe we'll talk about in a second. But all-powerful means just that. All-powerful doesn't mean more powerful than something else or greater than something else. It means there can be no other power. All-powerful is just that. Absolutely encompasses every nook and cranny in the universe. And my point is that you can have a name that is bright and sunny, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll live up to that energy or be that energy. You could take the other side because, when there's a left, there's a right. There's a yin, there's a yang, and everything in between. So two people can have the same name and be completely different in many respects.
There's a Heckle, there's a Jekyll.
But there is still that... from my perspective,
Dale, what about people that are forced? Well, like some people that did not do this or as adults by choice to do their name and they weren't comfortable. But you're bringing up something like real quick. I just want to ask you about this. Maybe finding Norma Jean or whoever, and they used to do a lot more, as we all know, in the 30s 30s, and 40s, of course. Everybody's name was different then, in celebrity-wise in the movies. But
Mhm.
if they weren't allowed to make it their own choice and they were just told, this is who you are now, that could really have complications, though, also,
Well,
yes?
it can, and that's again, it can. But again, it's interesting, Maureen. I'm many things. I'm a intuitive spiritual numerologist, but I also know the spirit of the soul transcends everything. Transcends other than God's energy, and maybe it is God's energy in a way. But whatever your name is, you can transcend the energy of that name if the soul is strong enough or your will
Exactly.
is intense enough. That's what I believe.
No, I
And
no, I understand what you're saying, and also having the ability to see the authentic loveliness in it, and I know I understand that. I like that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love talking to you. Everybody's like, yeah, we're talking to you. You're just, your energy's fantastic, and you're so passionate, and they're authentic, and so
Well,
let's
I'm
go.
an expert like you and like everyone else who's listening. I always say that we're experts in a way, even the things we don't know. We're human. That's what I mean by we're souls. We're alive, and so again, I didn't mean to cut you off really, but
No,
just in
it's
terms of
your interview, Dale. This is your
numerology
interview.
and all that. It's I don't live by numerology. That's what's interesting. I don't get up. I do the freevibeoftheday.com. I guess this is a good way to plug it. I do the 5-minute message every single day about the vibe of the day. But there are days that I forget what the vibe is. But I talk about the vibe, the energy of the day. Today, as a matter of fact, the vibe for today is the frequency vibration, that energy which you and I are walking through, just like we walk through telephone waves, sound waves, the vibration of the sun and the moon, and phone waves and everything else. The vibration today is a 20. Now, it's really a 2. We always try to reduce vibrations to a single digit, but by reducing to a single digit, I could just say, yes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, this is what it is, blah, 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 blah. But there is a little bit of nuance between a 20 and just a plain 2 energy. And a 20, whenever you have a God energy, which is the 0, what I call it, I call the 0 energy the God energy. When you have that next to a vibration, it suddenly enhances or raises the vibratory force. It can make it very important. Like today is a wonderful day to have this kind of conversation. It's a wonderful day to spend time reflecting. It's a wonderful day for many people who have to make a lot of decisions today. Now, we're always making decisions, but many people have found that there have been important decisions. A wonderful day for detail and reading between the lines with contracts. A wonderful day to spend time in taking care of very deep personal needs. A wonderful day to meditate. A wonderful day to get on the radio and speak about what we're speaking. Now, it could have happened yesterday. It could happen tomorrow, but this very spiritual vibe of the 20 just created a wonderful atmosphere. We have some wonderful people together. Here we are talking about being alive and all that means. And, I don't know if I say there's a vibration to numbers spiritually. I don't know. I guess this might take just a minute if I run
Go ahead,
through
go for it.
fast. Just what I know, what most people with the numerologists know, the 0 energy represents the God energy. It is what in most religious texts say, the earth was without form and void or chaotic. The universe was chaotic, no real purpose. The number 1 vibration is like a seed, and it's generally masculine in nature. It's like the seed planted in the universe, and it gave the universe purpose. The 1 is that big bang. The 1 is the initiator, the vibration of action, vibration of independence, determination, innovative, truly creative, and all number of vibrations come from the 1. The 2 energy, in a way, is a balancer, which represents the woman, female. It's the yin of the yang. The 2 brings peace, tranquility, harmony. It's very psychic, intuitive, and it does bring equilibrium to the man, and hence you have man and woman. The 3 energy, which is wonderful, is the very first energy created by 2 others. 1 plus 2 gives us 3. Man plus woman gives us child. So in terms of the spirituality, the 3 vibration, it means so many things, but basically it's from the womb. It means creativity, love, joy, spiritual and material expansion, acting, singing, dancing, luck. It's a joyful vibration, and it is that creative energy. The 4 energy is the first energy where the man or the woman say, all right, we have my spouse, I have my child, we need to build a home. four walls. I need to create order, government. I need to build a house, that which is masonry, architecture. I need to till the ground, hard work. The four is conservative in nature. It's logic. Think of Spock. It's a wonderful vibration, and it's truly spiritual, and it also represents the body. The five energy is a perfect example of the 60s. The five is about freedom. It's the man and woman say, all right, I have my family and all this, but you know what? I want to have some fun. The five is about freedom, the energy of it. That's what I mean. The energy of it is like a bat out of hell. Creatively, it's fabulous, but it wants to reach the masses, and it wants to actually try things on the physical plane. Drink, smoke, and the 60s, experimentation. All occurred in the 60s with music and society, and basically the United States of America vibrates to USA vibrates to the five energy. And what does five stand for? Freedom. And what is our country based on? Liberty and freedom. The sixth energy, which we're in right now.
Wait, Dale,
we're in a 6 month and
I
a
wanted
6
to get
year.
back to, we're going to take a fast commercial, so I want to stop at 5 so we don't get lost.
Okay.
We're going to just take a 1-minute commercial. We'll be right back, everybody, to go to 6.
And I'll make it short.
Yeah, 1 moment, and here's a commercial from psychicaccess.com.
A new era in psychic services has begun. Psychicaccess.com. You can connect with our psychic advisors by telephone or chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All of our psychic advisors are interviewed, fully verified, and accuracy tested, assuring you quality service. We're living in some very troubled times right now. More and more, the world's problems are affecting us on a personal level. You don't have to deal with this alone. Our highly accurate psychics, caring advisors, and talented mediums can help with situations you are currently experiencing and can let you know what the future may hold for you. All new customers get a free 6-minute reading. All you have to do is register. Why not visit us now and get a free reading at psychicaccess.com.
And just to make, I'll try to cut this real short, Maureen. The 6 represents the family, home, responsibility towards family and community. The 7 vibration is introspective. It is spiritual. It's suddenly inquiring minds want to know. Man and women want to know how we got here. What is spiritual? What is life? And we look generally in 2 directions, either applied science, physics, answer questions physics, or through astronomy, or through what we call the occult, which really just means hidden knowledge, or the church. Spiritual. Astrology, numerology, astrology, runes, the dark arts, the bright arts. We want to inquire and find out how we got here. And that's the introspective energy of the 7, which also brings us to the woods and to the country and to the ocean. The 8 energy is a very powerful energy, which really right away deals with wanting to create energy on this plane. The 8 vibrates to Wall Street or executive energy or money. Also vibrates to China, which is a very powerful vibration. 8 is that of sports figures. It's aggressive, it's domineering, and its main goal is to create substantial material things on this planet right away. And the last vibration I'll speak of is the 9, which is the ending cycle. In a way, it's completion, it's the epiphany, it's truly, it's the humanitarian. It's humanitarian love. The 9 vibration is that of endings and changes, and a perfect circle, 360 degrees. 3 plus 6 is 9, and 9 and 0 is 9 again. So the 9 brings us towards an end. There are other vibrations, master number vibrations, but I mentioned all numbers, that. Right? Just to,
the master numbers, Dale, like 11, for instance.
Yeah, 11, 22, 33, and 44.
So if you're an 11... I'm sorry, I don't mean to get you off but we still have some time here. But okay. 11, for instance, you wouldn't single that down. If you were a master number 11, what would make that? Well, what would make that so interesting, opposed to a single-digit number person that because you ended up with.
Well, the 11 obviously is a double vibration. Those 4 numbers, 11, 22, 33, and 44. There's a quasi, I call it a quasi master number, which is 10. And the best way to describe 10, because we could just add 1 and 0 together, but I don't add the 10 together. It's like being in elementary school and you're graduating from the 8th grade into 9th grade, and you're going to high school, another level. So after that 9 energy, the 10 is evolution. It puts you on another plane, so to speak. And then we get to the master numbers, and 11 is very ethereal in nature. It's metaphysical in nature. I always say, I try to picture a vibration. The 11 would be unicorns, mysticism, metaphysical energy, cosmic consciousness. The 11 is inspirational. It's almost the spirit in the ethereal form. It's almost the body, the soul lifting out of the body and heading to higher realm. It's the yogi sitting on the mountaintop, and beyond that mountaintop, there are other mountaintops and other mountains. The 11 is ethereal in nature. The 22, master vibration, is almost, it's double the 11. It almost is a step from the spiritual manifesting itself to the physical. So the 22 is a double of the 11. So not only the 22, you have the power of vision and being able to visualize, but it actually manifests things on the physical plane, whether it's money. The 22 matter of fact, the presidential election for Obama and Romney was on a 22 day, a master, a great international vibration. And the energy in which they chose the Pope was also a 22 day. It's a master, incredibly powerful spiritual and physical vibration. 33, well, that's sacrifice. That's the Christ energy. Mother Teresa, Christ. 33 is high church, a high level of church and giving and of love. It's sacrificial love. It's unending love, and it's highly spiritual. And then we have the 44, which is a vibration that's very powerful, and it's interested in changing things on the planet in a physical form, and again, in a very high energy and a very spiritual manner. Now, we also have other number vibrations, but so if someone's an 11 vibration, and it really depends on where they are, where that is, but if let's just say the full name expresses to an 11. That's not the soul, not the outer personality. It's the full name. Right. That generally, I could easily say right now if someone's 11, I might say, because I'm not looking at anything, I might say they might make a great lawyer, definitely a writer. I know that their frequency here on this planet is someone who is generally high-tuned, highly charged, but it really depends on the other aspects of the vibration. But 11, generally, people are highly intellectual. It doesn't mean that you could be a 5 and not intellectual, and not highly either, but it raises your vibratory force, where many 11 people are directors, inspirational teachers, psychics, intuitive energy. But, it really depends where it falls in a chart. Like when I do a life reading, again, the first thing I go towards is the soul. Soul vibration.
What about the death of people when they do, for instance, the date of death? Like I'm just curious, if someone was, I'm just going by the birth date. Let's say their birth date, it was 11, they died, it was a 10 on the date.
So what are you asking me? I'm not sure.
What I'm asking you, is there any correlation? Like I said, you're an expert in this, and I love numerology. I'm knowledgeable, but not like you, as much as you, of course. But do you ever, or people ever go, or people deceased, they come to you for help, because I know that you go beyond numerology, and they want to know, and do you ask the dates of their death ever?
Well, I'm an expert in being a human being. I want to be sure. I'm still learning. I'm still learning with numerology. Still learning. Yes, but I'm able to see. It's interesting, Maureen. Because when I do readings, so to speak, and I would say 95% of the time, I see the soul. I literally see the soul before it's in the body, and that's where the past lives come. I see the entry, the vibration, the vibratory force of it into this incarnation, and many times I'm able to see the ending date. And there are two aspects. There's a spiritual aspect, which I can pick up intuitively, and then there's even the numerology aspect, which is technical. I don't have the skill technically to predict an actual date, but I can tell many times through numerology. I guess we have to see if someone's going to live a shorter life, a longer life, and that's still relative. It could be wrong, but
Dale, I wasn't asking about prediction of death so much. I'm talking about let's go back into this, because you've gotten into the past life thing. I think it's fascinating. For instance, if I felt so connected to the 40s, or the 40s, something about that, this is the truth about this for me. But would you be able, if you were to look at the vibrations of numbers that you are involved in? Okay, so would that, so in past life, would you be able to utilize numerology in that to help you assess past lives? Is that the best way for me to put it?
Yes, and
Okay.
I enter into. I think I used this example once before. I had I have so many clients, but there was one in particular who sat down, started doing numbers, and I did a numerology reading. It's an audio. I sent it to her. She didn't even finish listening. She called me back right away because I saw her in a boat with a baby in her hand, and I saw her tip over in the water. Now, this was a past life. And I saw the year. I'm not going to mention too much. That's why I don't know if she drowned or not, but I saw this life thrashing. Now that was because I was able to jump into the soul's vibe. And when you jump into a stream, you're going to get all kinds of things. You're going to see all kinds of things. And she called me back and says, "Oh my God, Dale, I just want to tell you that since I was a kid, I've always had this deathly fear of water. And I couldn't go to the beach, and I used to go to therapists and blah, 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 blah. And when you mentioned what you mentioned over the phone, it just struck a chord in me." And she said she didn't remember the life itself, but she knew the fear came from something other than herself. And so I'm not sure if I'm directly answering the question, but knowing, the past can speak of the present. But, Freud did say sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
sometimes our issues are not from past life. But I met with a woman, a client last week, and she just walked in, sat down, and immediately my right side I started feeling things on my right side, and I started to lean over. And then I said to her, I said, I'm not sure what's going on, but you had a past life where you were this old lady. I see it. And I actually see it as you'd see a film that you saw yesterday or so. And I saw her pushing the cart and blah, blah. She was pushing the cart. So she said to me, "Oh, my God, I can't believe it." She had just come back from the doctor. For the last 15 years, she's had horrible issues with her right side and the back and blah, 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 blah. All these issues that I sort of picked up. Now, that's great. I picked it up. That's fascinating. That's wonderful. It makes for good talk. But what's important is, what does that life mean to her? I asked her to go to a doctor and tell him to look at certain areas. I'm not going to get too specific because I think that's where it's coming from. But this does come from a past life. And if you sort of can embrace the life itself, or at least the idea of what I'm saying, know that it's not necessarily something you've done right now, but it stems from something else. Maybe you can delve deeper into yourself to do some things spiritually to help change.
And learn what you're supposed to, the lessons.
Yeah, if you can.
It sounds like you're an empath, too. It sounds like you've been getting your empath side of you to feel things like that.
I had Maureen, things of, I had what I call there was a wonderful, this is the last story, I'll make a long story short, I had a reading for a person at a woman gave a party, numerology party, and I was there just doing quick readings, and this woman walked into the room, and immediately I sensed, first thing out of my mouth, "Your son. What about your son?" It's just your son. And make a long story short, she started tearing up. Her son had passed away in a car crash, and he was 13, and he had a message for me to tell her, and the message was that it's time to move on, and you need to let it go. And then I said, and he wants you to get the dog. And she has been fighting with her husband, who was actually there at the party, but he went just to drop her off, not to talk to me, because he didn't believe in any of this stuff. And she's been fighting with the husband for years because he wants to get a dog. Because the son wanted a dog before he passed away, and she just, of course, as a mother losing a child, she hasn't been able to move past it. But that message, the vibration, of whether he was speaking to me directly or he was around her, I heard it through the vibes, and it helped her tremendously because she had no choice but to at least know that this was real, But she believed, and through number vibrations, the soul vibrates, everything vibrates, and even when you leave this body. You vibrate, whether you believe you go to heaven or hell, or there is more. There is life after life, and everything, from my belief, everything, whether it's astrology or runes or even science. High science is almost magical when you think about it with numbers. Still has what I call, because I can't figure out a better word for it, vibrations, which is of the God power.
That's right. In scientists use the vibrations of the numbers to. From my understanding, anyway, is that what you're talking about?
Well, we're using numbers right now. There are two things.
Right.
The number system I work with is basically Pythagorean, there are a number of numerology methods. There's the Chaldean method. There's the abracadabra. I shouldn't call them methods. I should say other ways of looking at the world. And mine is Pythagoras, and he believed, who's the father of our number system in many ways. He believed that number vibrations were qualitative in value, meaning they're more than just used for measuring, and they're everything that I've been speaking of. And why? Because they just represent parts of they represent living. I don't know, the forces of life. We have to label them, just like we create time. We create increments of time for ourselves here. Why we create 24 hours instead of 36 hours as a day? You know, I'm not a scientist, but it all fits in the right place. The moon is the perfect distance from the sun, and the sun is a perfect distance from the earth, and that's all about vibration. And right now we're talking through vibrations, sound waves. And,
that's absolutely true. In fact, that's fascinating. Bringing up even pregnancies. There's a certain amount of time before it's time to have a new human come into the world. It takes a certain amount of number of days or weeks. I mean, everything.
It's cycles. And I'm not a scientist, and I know so many more people who are schooled in the intellectual arts or can just go around me like a school kid. But that's why I say I'm an expert like you and everyone else here on the planet as being a human being. And we know what feels right to us and what doesn't. And that's what I mean by being an expert of myself.
But you are very passionate about this, and you're so real and authentic. I wanted to ask you, there was something you sent me, and I really wanted to address this because we only have about 4 minutes, and it had to do with the yearly vibe for the planet last year and this year, and what does it mean? I think that'd be a good thing to close towards.
Last year we were in a 5-year, and you have to say in 2012, because the 5 is about transformational change. I'd send out an audio newsletter stating what the year was going to be about, and we had transformational change, and I loved saying this. On the election day was transformational change. I don't care who you voted for, change occurred. What also happened, which is carried over into this energy right now, marijuana, transformational change, society, gay marriage, transformational change. All this came last year. The weather, transformational change in this country, and particularly transformational change for those who believe that there is global warming because of what happened on Sandy, the storm. And then Sandy Hook, transformational change with guns. And that was a 5-year. Weather was crazy, very chaotic. This vibration of 2013 is a 6 energy, and it's a multifaceted, but it's very socially oriented towards family and war, actually, social events happening. That's how come this is, to many believe this is the year of gay marriage or being gay in terms of gay rights, and the year of women, both which vibrate to the 6 energy, family, lifestyle, and then even war vibrates to the 6, where social unrest. Look at Egypt and Syria, which actually started last year. And many people will find that, and you're in a 6 year yourself, and this is a 6 month. It goes on and on and on. But this year, I had seen that the housing market would do a lot better this year than next year. But I will say this: 2014, I say they discover life somewhere. They being fantastic. NASA or some space, something happens spiritually across the planet, because it's a 7 vibration. That's what I leave it with.
I think that's fantastic. You know, I had someone on a while ago, and he said it's getting close to the time. People already know it.
They know it. It's getting close.
But it's time for us to all know it. You know, yes. I really like that you brought that up. It was someone really great, respected man, talked about that. He goes, there's other people. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Who was the gentleman?
He's on our guest page. I was on the
I'll search him out.
Yes, he's very well. He's very respected. He works with and he brought it very eloquently. And listen to it. Yeah, go listen to that interview. You know, it's 30 minutes long, 15 minutes. Very well put. And I think he might have said about it was coming within the next year and a half, and it would be better.
Yeah, I mean, not that it. Let's just put it this way: the climate is ripe for it. But we're not done with this year. We have a lot of things going on. I would say look to your family. It's a very creative year artistically for artists. Real estate is really doing well. But war and social unrest, which started last year, actually it really started years ago, but we're going year by year, is still being affected in this country and, I mean, this world. And this is how come you have Egypt and Syria and everywhere else on the planet. There's this social change going on. But, it's interesting because just the word gay vibrates to 6. The word woman vibrates to 6. Family, society, literally the word vibrates to 6. And society this year, every year it's been affected. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. But this year it really is a lot going on for family and real estate and socially. Change is going on across the planet. And it's just very intense this year. Last year was very chaotic. The weather is not the same this year as it was last year. The change it seems like it slowed down a little bit, where last year that 5 energy was so chaotic. But I will say this, the month of August wasn't 5 energy. And that is about change. And it was a chaotic month for a lot of my friends and clients. A lot of people had difficulty. Wonderful time to promote yourself. But it was a mini 2012. And you yourself, you're in a 6 year. You just got out of a 5 year.
Yeah.
And you'll find that family issues will arise this year for you, more so. And you have to be careful about how much you give to others. You only can give so much. Your creative and artistic self will be open. You will increase. And you move home. Redecoration could occur. Redoing your home, doing yourself. And I think that's in the cards.
And moving on, change. Dale, we're running out of time. I really appreciate you joining us. I want to tell everybody though that you are on our guest page forever, as you have been. You'll have 2 now. People to hear, but also your website. Could you tell everybody your website so if they want to contact
it's
you?
numerologybydale.com, and then I have the daily 5-minute message called, it's fun, freevibeoftheday.com. I usually put that message up at 1 in the morning, but it's certainly there by 6. 5-minute message about the vibe of the day, colors to wear. We've got quite a following. And I would love to say this, if anyone goes to numerologybydale.com and hits the contact me button, I'll send them a couple of podcasts. One is really wonderful, Power of Yes, and I'll even send you the vibe for 2013. That's usually reserved for my subscribers to the audio newsletter, but I'll send it out, and I'll send you the vibe of this month that just went out a couple of days ago, and that would be my gift. Because it's been wonderful to be here on your show.
And you're very generous. You've always been very generous, and I adore you, and I appreciate you, and I'm really happy, and I would like to talk to you soon sometime as well about other things. So there you have everybody. Yay! Get Dale Spencer Weeks. Thank you so much for joining us, and you have a great night in New York City.
Thank you so much. Everybody, take care.
Thank you, Dale. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Hello, my name is Res Miranda. If you're having relationship, career, or life issues, I'm inviting you to experience what it's like to have access to professional, highly accurate psychics and spiritual advisors you can trust to care and help you. Register now to get your free 6-minute reading by telephone or chat. Get answers, get access, psychic access, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. PsychicAccess.com.
I walked into the house, and my mother was sitting at a table, and I went by her and noticed she had this red book on the table, and I asked her what it was, and she said that my brother had given it to her, and it was a book on numerology. And I went into the kitchen. I remember I got a cup of milk and some cookies, and on my way back out, I grabbed the book, went upstairs into my bedroom, and have been in there ever since, so to speak. The numerology just took a hold of me, but I sort of have always been in touch or able to express myself spiritually. I actually, not many people know, but I was brought up in the church, and I actually went to school to be a minister, and came back sort of full circle, but I've always sort of been enamored and attracted to astrology and just other things. Naturally, I would do things in my home. So as a kid, lighting candles, burning incense, creating peace around me. There was a period when I was a child where I was wearing all types of Egyptian jewelry, and it just grew. And at this point now, I own my own business for 10 years, and I closed that business in 2010. And I'm a big believer in asking and you receive. I asked the universe. I sat on the edge of my bed. I use the term universe or God, or I like to say absolute spirit, actually. But I asked the absolute spirit, I said, I need to know what to do now. Yes to finding my path.
Tonight, Dale Spencer Weeks is a psychic numerologist. He understands that number vibrations, which is that's the objective word, are eternal and spiritual nature, and they allow him to see with clarity the total. Stephen, this is your word, totality. I think I've heard you say that word, of one's life. Yes, you have. This includes the past, present, and future issues involving health and career, and guides, and much more. We're going to have a lot of great chat tonight about an interview about that. Hi, Dale. Are you there? Hello.
Hello, Maureen, and everyone else there. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, Dale, it's been almost exactly 2 years since
I think so.
And I'm so happy to hear your voice. I knew it. I wasn't joking. I was real excited. I love your energy, and I think your work is fantastic. There are a lot of people, we all do our things, but you're a fantastic numerologist and even beyond that. But in fact, why don't we get started why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you come to be?
Yeah, I actually, since we last spoke, actually, can I say hello to everyone else there?
Absolutely. Yes.
Is there Steve?
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening. Welcome back, Dale.
Good to hear from you. Great. Well, I've like all of us, since we last spoke, I've grown tremendously, and I sort of now don't so much use the word psychic. It's more intuitive, spiritual numerologist. But I, when I was 16 years old, which is a segue into numerology, jumping into the soul's vibration. It's almost like jumping into a stream. I could jump in, and I sort of am able to see past lives, things that are going to occur now and in the future, or may occur. And from my perspective, what I do, the most important thing about seeing a past life is not so much the life itself, which can be very interesting. I could tell you that you were the Queen of England. And you could say, okay, Dale, that sounds kind of nice. Okay, I was the Queen of England, but what does that mean? And for me, what I find important and what has developed is what's important about that past life is what does it mean to you now in this incarnation? How does it speak in terms of idiosyncrasies, talents, gifts, health issues that may occur or keep occurring, deja vu feelings, blessings? Usually, I shouldn't say usually, all the time, when I see a past life, there is always a direct correlation to who the person is now. But that's just a small segment, because when you jump into what I call the vibes, which is numerology, and as everything else, numerology walks hand in hand with astrology and runes and anything else, because we are here. And there are many ways to get to New York City, and there are many ways to get in touch with oneself or to understand the universe. So I sort of have spread myself in that way, and my wings have sort of opened up, and a lot of name changes and modifications I've been going through, and a lot of the spirituality of numbers is something I'm just started to write, Maureen, a book, an audio. I do everything,
great.
A lot of things audio.
Yes.
I had slept for 4 months after owning a business for 10 years and 35 employees, and then realized I was going through my funds and I needed to do something. And lo and behold, that was on a Sunday. I asked God, I said, I need to know. And on Thursday, I got my answer. I bumped into someone who I actually I didn't even recognize her, actually. I actually dabbled in numerology readings for friends, and I used to place it on a cassette tape. And she remembered me, and she said, am I still doing it? And I said, actually, I'm not, just for myself. And will you please do a reading for me? And called a buddy of mine, a tech guy, and said, well, how would I do it today? No one's using cassette tapes. He said, why don't you place it on a CD? And one thing led to the other. I gave it to her. She loved it. I gave it to her for free, just out of the heart. And then she turned another friend on. And then 2 weeks into that, she had some friends coming in from Florida, very spiritual people. They were in a convention, 6 of them. And she said, can you do 6 readings in 2 days? And I did it. And the rest is history. And since then, since we last spoke, I have, and I always say, like all of us, I've grown spiritually. Numerology has taken me into so many other avenues, into clairvoyancy. I actually help people with dealing with entities around them. I'm able to see and hear spiritually. It's more like a guide. I'm able to see past lives, which again, there's some wonderful people out there that are past life practitioners or are professional in that respect. I just have ability to see by literally what I call the vibration. There is actually spirituality in numbers, and I try to remind people numbers are just from my point of view, they just represent vibrations. They just represent feelings. It's not the number itself. It's just like our name. My name is Dale. Your name is Maureen. That name, Maureen, represents you here on this plane, on this planet. But you are not Maureen, yet your soul expresses yourself through the name, the vibration of Maureen, like the sun in the sky. It's an entity. It's here. But so I use numbers, or I try to explain number vibrations in the sense that they just represent feelings. And I use the term feelings because most of us use numerology each and every day, and we don't necessarily realize it.
We don't even pay attention to it, or we're not self-aware. In fact, I feel it's... I'm sorry, go on.
No, you go. I'm sorry.
No, I feel that, I want you to remember what you're going to say, because I feel it's really important that we don't pay attention, and we need to be more mindful and self-aware of what numbers, listening to your story, it reminds me, and I'm sure that my other co-hosts would agree, it's like our journey that we take, and like the synchronicity of this woman and connection, and the other people coming to look at, you're doing the work you must do. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
You didn't know, but it is what it is. And so it's not just about the numerology, it's that you connected with that science, and that's like with me it was tarot, but it goes beyond the tarot. It's like how you were saying it's now gone beyond the but the numerology part, even in tarot, the number in tarot, I get a vibration from that just by that number. Maybe I feel it, or because